what a solitary confinement room looks like here inside Alcatraz. And the size of the rooms here inside the solitary confinement are about 6 feet wide, and they're actually about 8 feet tall compared to 7 feet inside of the other prison cells. Right now in the United States, there's over 61,000 people that are currently in solitary confinement. Inside here, people have made notes as to what they think about solitary confinement. Man was never intended to live as a caged animal. These are the faces of men that were held in solitary confinement here inside of Alcatraz. And this man by the name of Henry Harris Jr.
Good, man. It's your boy E.I. the King, and this is the Incarceration Podcast, where I talk about prison, pre, post, and present, how everything that I experienced throughout my incarceration has forever changed my life. This is the Incarceration.
All right, good afternoon. This is State of Florida versus Stephen Testo with multiple cases before the court.
Forever Convict family, listen, we are on a journey to 50,000 subs. We are over halfway there. So if you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Share this channel with anybody who enjoys prison content. And if you don't know my story, I've done over 12 years in prison. And all throughout my incarceration on this channel, I share the crazy, funny, goofy, weird prison stories, as well as interviewing other convicts and sharing their stories as well. But most importantly, we highlight the redemptive stories of convicts coming home, leaving their past lifestyle of crime, and now living successfully in society.
Fam, what's good? It's your boy E.I. the King, and today we are doing a reaction video to a tour inside the famous Alcatraz prison. And the reason why I'm doing this reaction video today is because there has been rumors, or maybe it's true, I believe that President Donald Trump has been speaking on reopening Alcatraz and turning it into a mega prison. So to my knowledge, I believe that Alcatraz was closed due to the living conditions and it just being pretty much inhabitable. But we're going to go ahead and check out this video and see why, see what other facts and information they give us. But most importantly, we're taking an inside look at Alcatraz and its state right now, and seeing that maybe it might again be reopened and turned into this mega prison in which people have been saying, and specifically of all people, the President of the United States. Let's check it out.
These are the walls and cells of Alcatraz. Used to be home to the worst of the worst here in America, and right now they're thinking about reopening this and making this the future mega prison here inside the United States.
Really, it's not my decision on who would be sent here. In these conditions, nobody should be sent here.
Are you guys renovating Alcatraz right now?
Yes.
For Donald Trump? I am currently at the most infamous prison in America history. We're at the Alcatraz Prison here, and this prison has been closed since 1963 until now, just maybe. It was once used to house the most notorious and violent criminals in all of America. However, it's been closed for decades now, but now talks are starting about reopening Alcatraz. President Donald Trump just announced he wants to reopen Alcatraz, ordering the Federal Bureau of Prisons and also the FBI Homeland Security to reopen Alcatraz. He's been floating the idea around on social media, and this is what he said. Rebuild and open Alcatraz. For far too long, America has been plagued by vicious, violent, and repeat criminal offenders. No longer will we tolerate these serial offenders who spread filth, bloodshed, and mayhem on our streets. I am directing the Bureau of Prisons to reopen a substantially enlarged and rebuilt Alcatraz. So today we are going to be going inside of Alcatraz, talking to the people, showing you guys what Alcatraz is currently like and what it would take to reopen and renovate the prison of Alcatraz. Could this be the future Secot of America? Time will only tell. Today we are going inside of Alcatraz. Now we are about to enter into the main prison. This is where the main prison.
All right, I want to stop right there. Have you seen at the very beginning how, you know, obviously Alcatraz, the prison, is on an island, like out in the ocean? That in itself has got to be pretty intimidating and just crazy. I mean, if you are incarcerated at that prison, you're looking out your cell window and you see nothing but ocean. If they have windows and they can look out, that would be pretty intimidating and even that much more isolating, and maybe also cause you to be that much more depressed, feeling that much further away from home. You know what I mean? Like just feeling so far removed. So that's just a random thought.
cells were at, and this is where all of the most dangerous people back in the 1960s would be. We had people like Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly inside of here, the worst of the worst. And just to show you guys how bad the prisoners were here inside of Alcatraz, for every 3 prisoners there was 1 guard. Typically inside of a prison here in the United States, for every 250 prisoners there is 1 guard. That just shows how bad the people were here inside of Alcatraz. This was meant for the worst of the worst, and Donald Trump is saying this is where we want to send the worst of the worst. A famous quote here in Alcatraz is, break the rules and you go to prison. Break the prison rules and you go to Alcatraz. Now we're about to enter inside of the prison cells. When you first walk into the prison, the first thing you're met with is the room where they take their showers and receive all of their clothes. And when these prisoners came in here, they'd have no privacy, obviously, inside of these showers. And right now, this room doesn't look like it needs too much renovation. Everything looks like it's still intact. This could be a place where you wouldn't have to spend too much money as far as the renovation goes here inside of Alcatraz. Now we're heading up to the main prison cell.
What y'all know about intake, man? Right whenever you get into a new unit, you know what I mean? Go into your permanent housing, your permanent prison coming from reception. First thing you do, man, you see the laundryman, you know, he give you all your blues or whatever color your uniforms are in that state. You get all your laundry, you know, your whites, you know, boxers and socks. You know, apparently here at Alcatraz, you know, they make you strip. Obviously, whatever unit you get transferred to, you're going to get a strip search first quarter, shower again here apparently, and then probably maybe have you see the nurse, do some vitals, and then hit the pound, bro. Just go to your dorm.
This is where they would then come once they would come through the process after getting vetted. In these prison cells, this is prison cell number 100, and these are the places where they would sleep. They had their cot, bathroom, toilet, sink, and then also 2 shelves here inside of their cells. And right now, human activists are complaining about potentially sending prisoners here into Alcatraz because these cells are only 7 feet tall, and to enter, it's only 6 feet tall. Is that such a big concern as far as human rights go for a prisoner to come inside of a prison cell? And what do you think about these prison cells? Right now, human activists are saying these are too small prison cells to be putting people into. The walls aren't tall enough. It's 6 feet tall for these people to go underneath. They have to duck to go into the side of their prison cell. Right now, it's a lot of controversy. What do you think about them potentially sending prisoners here inside of prison cells just like these here in Alcatraz?
Well, I think if they're a prisoner, they don't need anything fancy. And I've also seen people in America living in worse conditions than this. At least in here, they have a toilet. I seen a man who lived in Oakland, right outside Oakland. He doesn't even have a toilet in his house. He lives in a shanty town. He has to go to the bathroom outside. At least prisoners have a toilet and running water.
People are worried about the cost and about the human rights as far.
All right, obviously, I'm sure that's just a random person on the tour, but whoever she is, terrible thought process. Hope she has nothing to do with anything that has to do with prison reform. And I hate to be negative, dog, and to speak ill on anybody, but she clearly doesn't have anybody that she loves or care for that's incarcerated. So God forbid that were to happen to somebody in her family, she would view how prisons are and how the incarcerated population is treated, definitely. So if that's you out there, man, feeling like people who are incarcerated can be treated however, at least they got a toilet, dog, like, number one, like, if you don't have anybody in your immediate vicinity, a loved one that's incarcerated, you are an anomaly. You know what I mean? Pretty much everybody's been somehow affected by incarceration and mass incarceration. So people make bad decisions, bro. And don't get me wrong, there's some people who definitely need to be locked up. You know what I mean? People with these crazy sex offenses, you know, murderers, you know, things like that. But even murder, you know, people make bad decisions, dog. But like serial murderers, you know, I'm not trying to justify or to, you know, what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right. And the law is in place in the nation for a reason. But I also want to always remind everybody, dog, that sometimes, man, people, including yourself and myself, we make bad decisions, bro. And to be punished for the rest of your life for one bad decision, you know, so that's a whole nother conversation, dog. But I just didn't like her attitude, bro. So I had to give my 2 cents.
As far as sending a prisoner here, right now they're arguing about the cell's height as far as entering into the cell. Should they be worried about the height of the cell for the prisoners?
I mean,
people aren't that height anymore.
Yeah, getting into it, a lot of people would probably bump their head. I didn't even notice that, but yeah, it's pretty short.
I don't think it's suitable for like people to.
Did she say people aren't that high anymore? What did she say? She's just nervous because the camera's on her.
They've gotten way taller, so like it's not the same.
Okay, because people have gotten taller since 1963, they should probably not reopen.
Yeah.
inside of the main holding for the
That was
prisoners
an
here
awkward
inside of
conversation.
Alcatraz is 3 stories high, full of cells top to bottom, right to left. There are prison cells everywhere here. The most amount of prisoners ever held here at a single time was 270, although the prison of Alcatraz has a capacity upwards of 325. Right now we're seeing prison cell 127, and on the 3rd story we're seeing prison cell 327. That just shows how many people and how much people this place could actually hold back in its day when it was actually an operating prison. Right now we have thousands upon thousands of tourists coming through here every single day. If tourists can walk through here every single day, shouldn't prisoners be able to walk through here theoretically if they were to renovate the prison cells as far as getting running water and making sure the bathrooms worked? And now we're going to enter into one of the cells. You can see right here, 5 feet wide, 7 feet tall, and then 9 feet long. Right here you have a toilet, you have a sink. Let's see if any running water is working right now. Currently no running water here on the island of Alcatraz, and right now around 4,000 tourists come through here every single day. That's $200,000 a day, and you times that by 365, that is upwards of $73 million that this prison is generating every single year in revenue just from tourists coming in to visit this place. And Donald Trump's
Bro, that's crazy. They're making hell a lot of money just for people coming to visit that. Y'all, mark my words, I'm going to do a video at Alcatraz. Next time I'm in New York, definitely going to Alcatraz to do this tour to give y'all some content. But as you can see, man, this prison's not in that much bad shape. It's probably just the plumbing that's probably like crazy expensive to fix. But, you know, obviously like the cells and all that needs to be painted. I mean, of course, it would be suck to be housed at this prison just because how tiny the cells are. But yeah, it's not in that bad shape. So, I mean, it's definitely doable.
tweet that he posted on Truth Media, he said they want to enlarge and rebuild Alcatraz, but how much would that cost? In 1962, they did the math as to how much it would cost to renovate before they did end up closing Alcatraz, and it was around $6 million. Nowadays, equated with inflation, that's upwards of $63 million. However, we know that would cost a lot more to do nowadays, especially with trying to bring in new water, new technology inside of these prison cells. But the question is, what would they actually have to renovate here inside of the prison cells if this stuff is still working, the steel is still intact, the walls and the concrete is still there, the paint is falling apart. A lot of these places don't have any more running water or any toilets inside, but how much would the actual cost of Alcatraz being? Nobody really knows. If they would have to rebuild and take down all of the infrastructure here in Alcatraz, or would it simply be just coming through, repainting, making sure everything looks good, and also making sure that all of the nuts and bolts are still intact. How much do you think it would cost for them to renovate Alcatraz?
Billions.
Billions of dollars.
None of the pipes are working. They're all rusted out, corroded. The concrete is 110 years old and hasn't had any maintenance on it. There are places where you could stick your hand through the wall. They have to do an entire renovation of everything.
So you don't think it's possible for them to? You don't think it's possible
Everything's
for them to
possible
reopen
if you have
Alcatraz?
if you have an infinite amount of money, you can do anything you want. But as it stands today, this is not a usable prison. It's a historic site.
And how long do you think it would take them to renovate Alcatraz?
That's like saying there's no answer. It would take forever.
Are you guys renovating Alcatraz right now?
Yes.
For Donald Trump?
Dude, I'm not doing any interviews.
You guys, so right now there are construction crews renovating Alcatraz. We don't know if that's because of Donald Trump or if that's just some renovations they are doing here. But they are
Hey, he brought up Donald Trump's name. He's like, I'm not doing interviews, bro. I'm out. So I mean, are they gonna rebuild it, man? Who knows, dog?
revamping some parts
The
of
guy working there made it seem like definitely not, bro. He's like, man, billions of dollars and a whole bunch of time. But that guy said that he's there, you know, I guess obviously renovating. That's what he says. So
Alcatraz. They're already rebuilding some stuff here on the island, and these are actually different prison cells. These are larger prison cells here on this side of the prison. You have prison cells that are upwards of 18 feet long and about 7 feet wide compared to the smaller prison cells on that side. These prison cells look like they're equipped to house a prisoner. And if a prisoner was acting up, they'd then send them to D block, which is the rooms of solitary confinement. Alcatraz being the prison for the worst of the worst, obviously they had solitary confinement rooms, and this is what a solitary confinement room looks like here inside Alcatraz. And the size of the rooms here inside the solitary confinement are about 6 feet wide, and they're actually about 8 feet tall compared to 7 feet inside of the other prison cells. Right now in the United States, there's over 61,000 people that are currently in solitary confinement. Inside here, people have made notes as to what they think about solitary confinement. Man was never intended to live as a caged animal. These are the faces of men that were held in solitary confinement here inside of Alcatraz. And this man by the name of Henry Harris Jr. was sent into solitary confinement for yelling and barking inside of the cell house. These other inmates right here were sent because they were telling other prisoners to not work, and this guy was caught cutting through his prison cell. Obviously, these prison cells aren't up to par with modern day prisons. However, they still technically would work. I'm not saying they should send prisoners here to Alcatraz, but if they really needed it and the resources weren't there, this prison does look capable as far as keeping prisoners inside of these prison cells if they were to bring in new bedding and update the showers, or if they were to update the bathrooms inside of the cells, or if they were to create massive bathrooms inside of the prison. They could also house prisoners here on Alcatraz. Currently across the world, there's lots of controversies around prisons, especially with the new prison in El Salvador called Secot. And when you compare Secot to a prison like Alcatraz, Secot is actually a lot more advanced as far as technology and security goes, as nobody has escaped that prison, and that is home to the worst of the worst. And inside of those prison cells, those prisoners will actually never even see the light of sun again.
All right, so I didn't know what he was meant earlier by CCOT or whatever, so I didn't say nothing on the video, but apparently that's what it is, that huge prison, that mega prison. I've done reaction videos before about, El Salvador. So maybe that's the reason why Trump's wanting to do this and turn into a mega prison, maybe to compete, with that mega prison in El Salvador, kind of for us to have like the new shiny thing, so ain't no telling.
The prisoners here inside of Alcatraz, theoretically, if they were able to reopen Alcatraz, renovate it, and send prisoners here to Alcatraz, they would be a prison where the prisoners could go in and out of their prison cells, walk around the island, and be away from any communities where they could potentially harm. Right now, the border czar, Tom Homan, says that if we do not open up these prisons in America, we're not going to have anywhere to send the most violent and dangerous criminals in the United States and migrants that came across the border illegally that are part of gangs. And by opening a prison like this, they would actually be able to house and put more bad people off the streets into prisons away from communities. And Donald Trump has actually ordered the Federal Bureau of Prisons.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this video on this note just because it's kind of getting boring. I'm not going to ever give y'all content that I myself wouldn't watch all the way through. So I'm just going to leave off on this note. So, of course, the thought process here is we need to open more prisons, like he just stated, that one politician, whoever it was, and kind of, hinting at Trump with that same thought process. We need to build more prisons or we're not going to have anywhere to send all the people who are committing crimes. But I think the focus should obviously be on rehabilitation and reentry for convicts coming home. So that way they don't return back to a lifestyle of crime, but they've been rehabilitated with programs, with education, with trades, with therapy, and most importantly, man, the proclamation of the gospel. If you don't know my story, bro, I went to prison 3 times. By the time I was 23, I was already in prison my 3rd time, did over 12 years in prison, sold dope, robbed my whole life, just destroying my life. But through faith in Christ Jesus, man, the Lord radically transformed my life. And now I travel throughout the nation doing prison ministry, bro. Doing prison reform, sharing my story, sharing how God transformed my life, being an example to those who are incarcerated, that God can do the same for them and more. So, yeah, I just want to, close off on that thought that the focus shouldn't be on opening more prisons. I understand, obviously, if they have to, because more and more people are getting incarcerated, but the finances and the strategy should be on reform, should be on rehabilitation, should be on programs and schooling and education and trades that empowers the incarcerated population. So that way people get out and they don't reoffend. That's what needs to happen. You know what I mean? Somebody, please, man, make me the head of reentry, dog, of any state, of Florida, man, so that way we can see convicts getting out and, successfully transition back into society. But I understand maybe the thought why they want to reopen Alcatraz is because it's on the island and it's away from everybody. And maybe it just makes people feel safer. Like I said, they're trying to compete with El Salvador to have the biggest, coolest prison. Who knows? But once again, man, it's your boy E.I. the King. This is the Incarceration Podcast. Y'all stay tapped in. Whole bunch of fire content continuing to come your way. Updates with the fugitives who escaped that Parrish County Jail in New Orleans coming here soon. And y'all stay tapped in, man. I'm out.
If you didn't know, I am a rapper. My artist name is E.I. the King. Check out my music on all streaming platforms. Go to my other YouTube channel, E.I. the King. Check out my music videos. And I'm also releasing a documentary all year. It's really a docu-series. And every Wednesday, I drop a new video. As we've been documenting my transition home from prison and society, from the day of my release, we had a film crew at the gate just documenting my transition home from prison, now in society. Check it out on one of these links above.